Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Audrey Ingram, who's here to share with us her new novel, The Summer We Ran. Does your past define your destiny? Told through multiple perspectives and rich with emotion and immersive dual timelines, Ingram weaves together a story of lost love, devastating secrets, and painstaking decisions. So Audrey Ingram is a native of Alabama and a graduate of Middlebury College and Georgetown University Law Center. She practiced law in Washington, D.C. for 15 years. So welcome to the show, Audrey Ingram.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this novel. What even inspired you to write this?
I have always been a lifelong fan of shows like Scandal and The West Wing. There's something about the high stakes and the passion of elections that has always drawn me in. And I thought, what an interesting love story to tell of two people running against one another who have a shared past and a shared love, and what happens in the present day. So, The Summer We Ran is about two teenagers, Tess and Grant, and they meet and, despite their very different backgrounds, fall deeply in love and have a kind of hot and heavy summer romance that unfortunately ends in tragedy and secrets that they keep from one another. And they both end heartbroken, thinking they will never see each other again. But 25 years later, they are both running for governor of Virginia. So it's told in two timelines: the summer of 1996, when they meet and fall in love at a grand estate in the Virginia countryside, and then in 2021, in the summer leading up to the election, when they're both on the campaign trail, desperate to keep their past from destroying their futures.
Well, what a great read this book is. And I know with these multiple perspectives and these timelines, how did you approach keeping this narrative and the emotional arc in a way that didn't reveal any of its secrets?
It was very fun and also challenging at the same time. I like to joke there's lots of cups of coffee involved, timelines, note cards, all of that good stuff, because I really wanted these stories to weave together. And as a reader myself, I enjoy books with multiple timelines. It keeps a momentum that's always very exciting. And I wanted to do that in this story, but I also wanted to reflect how these events that can really shape us in our youth have a very strong impact throughout our lives, and how two very different people, navigate that impact.
Well, with these themes of love and family obligations and ambition kind of woven through, which one of these felt the most personal or really kind of resonated with you while writing?
Really interesting, because the story is told both from the perspective of Tess and from the perspective of Grant. And I thought, setting out, that I would feel a much stronger connection to the female main character. That's the voice I've written in my prior novels. I thought that was where I would feel the most comfortable. And maybe it's because I was nervous about writing from the male point of view, but I spent a lot of time thinking about who Grant was as a character, what his background was. And at the end of the day, I was so surprised that the chapters written from Grant's perspective were, in fact, some of the hardest to write, but were also the ones that I loved the most and enjoyed the most. So it was a very surprising twist, but that's what's wonderful about being a writer, the way the stories surprise even you.
So, did real life politics influence the writing at all?
I'd like to think this is a story set in with a political backdrop, but it's certainly not about politics. I think there are a lot of amazing novels out there, and even nonfiction, especially nonfiction, where if you want to dive into the intricacies of a political campaign or a specific political issue, then you can seek out those experts. My goal here was not at all to write about any type of political issue or with any type of political motivation in mind. what my goal was is to talk about the high stakes of being in the public face, what, how divisive these issues and the political parties can feel, and use all of those high stakes as a backdrop for a love story, a story about two people. And it's really those two people and their journey that's at the forefront of this novel.
What were some of the other themes that you touched on in this book?
Well, I think the setting of Virginia was very near and dear to my heart. I moved to the area about 11 years ago, and it's become my adopted home. I think it is one of the most beautiful places. There are rolling blue mountains and green fields, and I wanted to create a place that really transported the reader to this magical summer, hot summer in the countryside. And part of that was gardening. So in Virginia, there are these beautiful historic old estates with these ornate gardens. And the main character in the book comes to work at one of these estates. So there is a lot of discussion of identity and class and feeling a sense of belonging or feeling as if you're an outsider. And it's in the backdrop of these beautiful Virginia estates and these very ornate, elaborate gardens.
So, why did you choose Virginia as a setting?
Well, there are a couple of reasons. I live here, and I knew I always wanted to write a book set in this area. But then also Virginia is interesting because this summer we are actually coming into the election for our governor. It's an off campaign year. And Virginia really becomes kind of this bellwether state for national politics. It's an election that a lot of people look at. And I thought that was really interesting because it is a very politically moderate state on a whole. And I thought that's the kind of story I wanted to tell, was thinking about what are the stories behind people? How do they end up forming these opinions? What in their background, their family really shapes who they are? And so I thought the political climate of Virginia was really great for this. And then it was just also really fun setting something in my backyard.
That's always nice when you have that in depth knowledge of a location that you can really share the beauty of it.
Yeah, and I have three young kids, and we love to be outside and explore. And so a few summers back, I piled them all in the car, and almost every day that summer, we would drive off to different locations in Virginia, and it was just so inspiring. And I couldn't wait to get home and write and set different scenes in all of these different places because they are on the campaign trail and they're moving throughout the state. And so there were lots of great, fun, interesting settings that I could weave into the story.
Now, has your background shaped any part of this story at all? Because I understand you went from practicing law to writing fiction.
I did. Yeah, I was an attorney for many years. And then during the pandemic, decided that I needed some more time with my children and paused my legal career. And that's when I started writing novels and have been doing it ever since. And it's just been really fun. And I do think there were a lot of things that inspired this story from my past career because a big theme in this novel is, how women are perceived in our culture and the pressures that we also put on ourselves, the different types of standards that sometimes we're held to or we feel like we're held to. And those were conversations I had all the time with colleagues and other working females and friends and family members. And so there were lots of experiences that I could pull from in shaping the main character's journey and how she felt as a candidate, and then also how she felt as a woman and what she wanted, and that pull between duty and desire.
Well, your book really offers both escape and this great depth to it. How did you strike this balance between a great summer romance and a serious subject?
Well, I love a good summer read and I love a good summer romance. And I think the stories that I'm the most drawn to are when you are very deeply connected in the emotional journey of the character, alongside that quest of are they going to get, their happily ever after. And so I always want to tackle the complicated, messy aspects of love, because that's real life. Love is not easy and it's not straightforward. It is very brave to put yourself out there, figure out what you want, and figure out who is deserving of that in your life. And I think that my favorite romance books are ones that really celebrate that bravery and that vulnerability.
What do you hope readers take away from the summer we ran?
Well, most of all, I hope they have a really fun summer reading experience. I love summer. I think there is nothing better than sitting by the pool or the beach or out in the countryside and snuggling up with a great book. So that's always my goal, is to write something that readers enjoy. But I'd also love it if they, think about the people in their lives and the stories that have shaped them. And even if they're people that they don't agree with, especially if they're people they don't agree with, listening to each other's stories. That's always my goal. I think we bridge together by hearing each other's stories.
Well, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
Well, I have a website, audreyingramwrites.com. And then I'm also pretty active on Instagram at the same handle, Audrey Ingram Writes.
Well, Audrey, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much.
Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.